I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Holly. Hello, my name is Soleil Kim, and I'm the President and CEO of the Miramar National Cemetery Support Foundation, as well as a retired U.S. Army veteran honored to have served our country. Happy Veterans Day to you and yours. On behalf of our chairman, Mr. Denny Scoville, and our board of directors, we offer you a warm welcome and thank you so very much for joining us today. We're excited to share with you our Veterans Day program for 2022, as we've had the good fortune to showcase Honor Flight San Diego. Today, we're joined by their chairman, Ms. Julie Brightwell, a volunteer team member, Mr. Paul Granger, as well as a recent Honor Flight recipient and Seawolf, Mr. Ken Curtis, who will share their perspective of what the program embodies, symbolizes overall, and what it means to them individually. The very naming of the program, Honor Flight, invokes a sense of pride. The word honor has numerous definitions, including one whose worth brings respect or fame, a showing of usually merited respect, a privilege, such as we've had the honor of joining the captain for dinner, a keen sense of ethical conduct, one's word given as a guarantee of performance. The word honor is reciprocal in what our veterans stand for individually. As spoken by General Douglas MacArthur in 1962, duty, honor, country. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. The word honor is reciprocal in how we view our veterans as well. We have a day to honor them, like today, Veterans Day, with events and parades across the United States to celebrate them. We honor their memory by building memorials, visiting them at their grave sites, bestowing coins, flags, and flowers. We honor them with discounted services, free meals, warm words spoken, such as thank you for your service. We hold them in high esteem for the sacrifice they have made. We honor them with programs such as Honor Flight. Today, we salute our military members who have served and continue to serve to the utmost of their ability, sacrificing life and limb, along with their individual pursuits of happiness for the good of our nation. At this time, I would like to introduce Ms. Greta Hamilton, the Director of Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery and Miramar National Cemetery. Ms. Hamilton is a retired Air Force officer who took her position here in San Diego in March of 2021. In the short time she's been here, Ms. Hamilton and her staff have made significant strides in various projects at Miramar National Cemetery, including expanding and renovating the administration building, expanding the cortege lanes behind the administration building, building a new committal shelter for memorial services, and opening new sections and a columbarium near the flag assembly area. Construction on these projects continues under her watchful eye and leadership. We're quite thankful to have her on board. Without further ado, it is my privilege to welcome my sister-in-arms, Director Greta Hamilton, to the podium.
Thank you, Soleil. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Miramar National Cemetery staff and myself, we welcome you to these sacred grounds to recognize all veterans for their service to the United States of America. The theme for Veterans Day 2022 is honor. Honor that reflects the military value and the tradition of answering the call. To those of you who answered the call, thank you. We don't know them all, but we owe them all. President Harry S. Truman, a World War I veteran, remarked, "Our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude. Whether you served on or off the battlefield, in peacetime or war, it is because of your service this nation has prospered." Throughout America's 246-year history, veterans gave this nation something more valuable than gold. You gave your time, you gave your youth. Many made the ultimate sacrifice. It is a debt we cannot repay, and nobly you did not expect anything in return. I close with these words from President Ronald Reagan that aptly details the sacrifices made by all veterans. We remember those who were called upon to give all a person can give, and we remember those who were prepared to make that sacrifice if it were demanded of them in the line of duty, though it never was. Most of all, we remember the devotion and gallantry with which all of them ennobled their nation as they became champions of a noble cause. Join us as we honor the men and women who selflessly protected and defended our country. We take this time on the 11th day, at the 11th hour, to commemorate and celebrate the brave, loyal, and selfless military members and their loved ones. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Greta. We're very fortunate to have Miss Julie Brightwell, the chairman of Honor Flight San Diego, join us in commemorating Veterans Day 2022. Miss Brightwell got her start as a volunteer with Honor Flight when she took her father, a World War II veteran, on his honor flight in 2008 from Columbus, Ohio. She was a charter board member in starting the Honor Flight Columbus, Ohio hub. She moved to San Diego in 2012 and immediately got involved with the Honor Flight San Diego hub. She's been chairman since 2017. Last week's Honor Flight San Diego trip was Julie's 53rd honor flight, all as a volunteer. Miss Brightwell, we appreciate you being here with us to mark this special day.
Hello, my name is Julie Brightwell, and I'm the chairman of Honors Flight San Diego. I'm honored to be here on Veterans Day 2022 to share a bit about our organization. Honor Flight San Diego is one of approximately 130 independently operated hubs of the nationwide Honor Flight network. Our mission is to fly veterans to Washington, D.C. to visit the memorials that were built for their service and sacrifice. The Honor Flight San Diego hub was founded by Dave Smith, the son of a World War II veteran. Since 2010, here in San Diego, we've flown over 1,700 senior and terminally ill veterans on their honor flight. The majority of our veterans have been World War II era and are now in their mid-90s to over 100 years old. We have flown Korean War veterans for several years, and just this fall we embarked on a new era where we started taking our Vietnam War veterans. We are blessed to live in a military town and a county with about 210,000 military veterans, so we have lots of flights ahead of us. Our trip to Washington, D.C. is a 3-day trip, and the veterans visit the World War II, Lincoln, Korea, Vietnam, Marine Corps, Air Force, and military women's memorials. We start our day at Arlington National Cemetery viewing the changing of the guard ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and we end our day at the National Museum of the U.S. Navy. One of the trip's highlights is the homecoming at San Diego International Airport. The veterans are welcomed home by over 1,000 people wearing red, white, and blue, holding signs and waving American flags to give these heroes the homecoming they may not have received when they returned from war. It is a whirlwind 72-hour trip, and whether the veteran is in his 70s or over 100 years old, we find that they feel rejuvenated, overwhelmed, but truly honored by their fellow Americans. For some veterans, the trip is about sharing stories that their family members may never have heard, or bonding with their fellow military brothers and sisters, or finding closure from their military service. For some, after they return, they have a renewed sense of purpose and a spring in their steps, and we like to say that our flight is a life extender. Veterans often say their honor flight was the trip of a lifetime. Every veteran is assigned a guardian or escort to assist them as needed, to listen to their stories and learn more about their service to our country. The guardians get to spend 72 hours listening to the stories ranging from Pearl Harbor, the Battle of Iwo Jima, D-Day, the Battle of the Bulge, liberating POW camps, the Chosin Reservoir, Heartbreak Ridge, the fall of Saigon, and scrambling the sea wolves for operations on the rivers of Vietnam. We are ready to hear and share even more stories from our Vietnam veterans. We encourage our veterans to share these stories that may not be found in the history books. We are forever grateful for the service and sacrifice of our military heroes, and we don't want these stories to be forgotten. The veterans travel at no cost to them due to generous donors. These are private individuals and organizations who send us anything from a $5 bill in the mail on up. We are not government funded. We are 100% volunteer-based, so every dollar we receive directly supports getting veterans on their honor flight. The trip cost for 85 to 100 veterans is about $300,000, and pending funding, we try to take 2 flights per year. One of our calls for action is to help us find those World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and terminally ill veterans from any era to get them on their honor flight. We know they're out there in our community, and we need your help in finding them. Our final thought today is that we want our veterans to share their stories. We want to hear them, and our veterans want to tell them. It may just require asking them to share their stories with friends, family, children, school classes, and organizations. So on this Veterans Day, ask a veteran about his or her service. I thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about Honor Flight San Diego, and I wish all of our veterans a very happy Veterans Day. We are so thankful for your service. I'd now like to introduce one of our longtime volunteers, U.S. Air Force veteran Paul Granger. Paul is a guardian and a team leader on our Honor Flight San Diego flights. Paul was an Air Force B-52 pilot in the Vietnam War. Paul?
Thank you, Julie. I'm Paul Granger, a former Air Force pilot and Vietnam veteran. My wife Leslie and I became volunteers for Honor Flight San Diego in 2011 after her father, Sergeant Walt Travis, a World War II Marine, participated in his tour of honor. We can relate firsthand what a life-changing experience it was for Walt to have gone on his honor flight. An honor flight tour to Washington, D.C. is much more than a quick trip to view memorials in our nation's capital. It is, in fact, a changing experience for both the veterans as well as the guardians who accompanied them. Over the years, we've received comments from our veterans about the trip. The comments most often heard from our veterans speak to how great it was to be with veterans with similar experiences and to be able to communicate their feelings and stories to each other. They also say how great it is to feel part of a bigger family, Honor Flight San Diego, and a brotherhood and sisterhood that will always be there for them. Veterans appreciate the warm receptions from strangers that often bring smiles and sometimes tears to their face. We have often received thank yous from family members. Many tell us that since the trip, their loved ones are now being more open about their military experiences and how that openness has enhanced their relationships. Other comments Leslie and I have received from our veterans are that the trip was a life extender, a health booster, or it gave them a second win. One observation of this statement that we have noticed after our first trip and repeats itself during every trip since then goes like this. When they arrive at the airport on Friday at 5:30 a.m., the military calls that dark 30, they are sometimes slow getting out of their cars, are bent over, and or are assisted by either canes or walkers while slowly moving towards the sign-in process. As they move forward and start talking to other veterans as well as getting acquainted with their guardian, you can feel the energy level rise along with the volume and lively discussions and quicker movements. This energy continues for all 3 days and culminates with our arrival back in San Diego Airport. As they depart the plane and view the hundreds of strangers who are there to welcome them back, we once again notice that they are standing taller, walking more briskly, and even putting aside walkers and wheelchairs as they relish the thank yous that envelop them. We often hear that this change in attitude carries forward to their day-to-day lives. Some veterans become public speakers and educate children about their war experience, and some start new hobbies as well as participate in charitable or fraternal organizations, or just continue to enjoy a more social lifestyle. Recently, a veteran explained to me that Honor Flight trip was a life extender. Which leads me to my final part of this message. As guardians, we are often thanked for all the effort we put forth to make their trip a great experience. We reply to them that as a guardian, we receive more from them than we give. We get to hear about history firsthand from those who lived it. We make lifelong friends that we have never met. We get an opportunity to personally honor and show respect to the men and women who served our country during war, as well as those who stood watch over our country in times of peace. If you are a veteran, thank you for your service. Welcome home. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, Paul. It's my great pleasure to introduce Ken Curtis, a retired captain with 26 years of service in the U.S. Navy. He flew 152 combat missions with the HAL 3 Seawolves and participated in Operation Frequent Wind, the evacuation of Saigon. He commanded Helicopter Anti-Submarine Squadron 2 and was Group Commander for Nuclear Weapons Training Group. Mr. Curtis was selected to attend the Fellowship Program for Senior Officials in National Security at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. He retired from the Navy with over 5,200 flight hours. Mr. Curtis, thank you for joining us to help commemorate Veterans Day 2022.
Hello, my name is Ken Curtis. My relationship with Vietnam began in 1971 when I volunteered to serve with the HAL 3 Seawolves, and later again in 1975 during Operation Frequent Wind, the evacuation of Saigon. When offered to go on the first ever honor flight for Vietnam veterans from San Diego, I initially demurred. I knew about honor flights from news coverage and have only the highest admiration for those World War II and Korean vets who went on those flights. In my mind's eye, I fully agreed they were and are our finest generation. I had some difficulty accepting that my generation's service merited such attention. However, as this honor flight was to be exclusively for 85 Seawolves, and I would see shipmates I had not seen in 50 years, I accepted the invitation. Before I share my experiences on the trip, I must mention that the Honor Flight San Diego organization is perhaps the most enthusiastic, mission-oriented, and professional group I've known. Their planning and organizational skills were evident everywhere. From the flags that flew over Miramar National Cemetery for the 44 Seawolves who lost their lives, to the mail call during the flight to Washington, D.C., every event was designed to enhance the experience. I honestly lack the words to express my admiration and thanks to Honor Flight San Diego. While the stated mission of Honor Flight is to honor veterans, and they certainly accomplish that by making us feel special, I feel they accomplish so much more. Once in Washington, D.C., they hosted amazing dinner programs and a full day of visiting our nation's most revered museums and monuments. I think I speak for most of us on this honor flight when I say that more than feeling honored, most of us, after visiting Arlington Cemetery and especially the Vietnam Wall, reconnected with our humility and gratitude for having served our country. Visiting our nation's most hallowed grounds rekindled memories of one of the most important times of our lives. It was as if the texture and context of our shared experiences was brought into sharp focus. However, Honor Flight was not through with us yet. They promised the Seawolves a homecoming that was denied 50 years ago. There is no way to describe the reception we received back in San Diego. How Honor Flight organized the huge crowds of cheering folks welcoming us back home will remain a mystery to me. But in the words of my 12-year-old grandson who was there, it was epic. Thank you, Honor Flight San Diego. You gave me the experience of a lifetime.
Thank you to Director Hamilton, Ms. Brightwell, Mr. Granger, and Mr. Curtis for your heartfelt words and shared experiences with Honor Flight San Diego. We are a community inspired by the gratitude you show our veterans. May we all find ways to support this program and others like it as a means of honoring and celebrating our veteran population here in San Diego. For those of you who have served, Veterans Day is a very humbling occasion. Thank you for your every sacrifice, for all that you've done. I ask you to please bask in today's gratitude, if even for a moment, this one day, as without your service, this nation could not be where it is today. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts to our military brothers and sisters. Thank you for your bravery, for your expertise, for your leadership, through your years of service, and I'm certain well beyond. Again, on behalf of our chairman and the Miramar National Cemetery Support Foundation Board of Directors, we thank you for joining us today, and we wish you a very happy Veterans Day.